Yes, ma'am.
and you ate that one.
Okay, ma'am.
What's the level of satisfaction which you
Um,
yield from that chocolate? This is based under the cardinal number system, comes under the cardinal analysis. So you can say your level of satisfaction in numericals.
I don't know, ma'am.
So, come on with any number.
Um, uh, ma'am, you also say, ma'am. I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Anybody else from your class? Anybody? Anybody come with any commodity which you like? Yeah, okay. So nobody in the class, and you guys didn't like anything, and you are here for the sake of attendance. Yeah, okay.
Ma'am, mobile phone.
Mobile phone. Who's answering?
Siddhartha.
Siddhartha. Yeah, okay, Siddhartha. Siddhartha R. Yeah, okay. You are going to buy a new mobile, and you are going into your. What's your favorite one? Any brand?
Realme.
Okay. What's the brand?
Realme, ma'am.
Realme. Okay. What's the price of that phone? The model which you like?
Uh, 16,000.
16,000. Yeah, okay. You heard that the Realme mobile was 16,000 and you want to buy that mobile. And with the 16,000, you are entering into the shop and you found a discount board or a notice which says the model of Realme which you choose to buy. That particular model is having some discount that is instead of 16,000 that is available for 15,000 only. You save rupees 1,000. So this is the thing essence of the notice which is in front of the shop. So what will be going in your mind?
I would go for it. I'll buy the phone because it's 1,000 rupees off.
1,000 rupees off for that phone. So by purchasing this Realme mobile, this particular product, what is your gain? Are you satisfied with the product?
Yes.
What's your gain from that product?
Um, Gain implies like what are the advantages, uses of it?
No, no, you are going to buy. Just you bought that mobile
Yes.
at the initial period in the shop itself. What's your gain?
Yeah, I have made a discount of. Sorry, I have saved 1,000 rupees.
You
So
saved 1,000 rupees. So that 1,000 rupees is your gain at that time.
yes.
Okay, instead of you're ready to pay more for that commodity, but the commodity which you like, the particular commodity, you got that commodity for a lesser price than you ready to pay.
Yes.
Okay, so you gain something from that product at that moment.
Yes.
Okay, that gain is called as the surplus.
Earth has attacked us.
So at that time you got, yeah, Jacob. Yeah, okay. So at that time you gain some rupees 1,000. So that 1,000 is called as the surplus, and this process is called as the consumer surplus. Is it clear? That is,
Yes, ma'am.
a customer is ready to pay higher price, but he actually paid a lesser price which he want to pay. So the difference between these two is called as the consumer surplus. Is it clear? Is the concept clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The definition which was given by Marshall, the excess of the price which a consumer would be willing to pay rather than go out without the thing over that which he actually does pay. That is, a consumer is willing to pay some money but he actually paid a money which is lesser than the willingness to pay. So the difference between these two is the consumer surplus. Is it clear, guys? So according to the
Yes,
example
ma'am.
which was given by Siddhartha, rupees 1000 is the consumer surplus. He actually paid rupees 15,000, but he willing to pay rupees 16,000 for that Realme mobile, but he actually paid 15 only. So the difference between the 16 and 15, that is rupees 1000, is called as the consumer surplus in this example. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Also, we are having the assumptions. So in the assumptions, it's here also we are having the common assumptions of the cardinal analysis. That is, utility can be measured, cardinal number system, the second one. And the third one is the marginal utility of money is constant, and each and every product is having its own utility, that is independent utility, and everything is constant. Other than this, everything is constant. These are the general common assumptions of the cardinal. And here in this consumer surplus, we are having the same, and we are having one more thing which is called as the perfect competition. Yeah, okay. So in the world, we are having several types of competition. In economics, we are having two types of competition. One is perfect, the other one is imperfect. And regarding this perfectly competitive market and imperfectly competitive market, we are having a separate topic to discuss. So here I just say what is that? What is perfect competition? So based on the futures in the markets are divided into certain types. Here also, based on the several futures, the market is divided into perfect and imperfect market. So the market which is having the futures of large number of buyers and sellers, that is many buyers and many sellers, and those sellers, all the sellers, here we are having larger number of sellers, many sellers, and those sellers are producing a single commodity. So there is no substitution. All the sellers, they are producing a single commodity, and the prices of those commodities which was produced by all the producers, all the commodities, the prices of all those commodities are constant. So in the perfect market, we are having large number of buyers and sellers, and all the producers, sellers are producing a similar type of commodity. There will be no substitutes, and the prices are constant for all the commodities. Is it clear? Is this clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Okay. If these futures are available, means that is called as perfect competition. And all other assumptions are the same thing. And here we are having the example of bread. So can you able to see the table, guys? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So here we are having the example of bread. So second column says about the marginal utility, that is in rupees, because marginal utility in rupees, how it is possible? Because according to Marshall, mu of A is equal to P of A, which we discussed in morning session. Mu of A is equal to P of A. Did you remember that one? So the price which a consumer spent for the commodity will be equal to the satisfaction level which he receives from the commodity. Mu of A is equal to P of A. That's why here marginal utility is measured in rupees. So the first unit of a bread, the consumer is ready to pay 10 rupees. Here it's taken in the unit rupees. So consumer is ready to pay 10 rupees for a first unit of a bread, but actually it costs rupees 2. So there may be any discount or anything, any off or something else. Yeah, okay. So consumer ready to pay rupees 10, but actually cost us rupees 2. So he saves rupees 8 in the first unit of bread. So that savings, that gain, that surplus is called as the consumer surplus. That is, ready to pay is 10, actually paid is 2. So the difference between 10 and 2 is the consumer surplus. So 8 is the consumer surplus in the first case, first unit. And coming to the second unit, already for the first unit he ready to pay 8, but he paid lesser than the amount which he want to pay. So for the second unit, he ready to pay only rupees 8 because already the price was lower than his imagination, that is willingness to pay. So he go for the lesser price than the previous one. So he ready to pay 8, but he actually paid 2. So difference between these two, 8 minus 6 gives the consumer surplus. Likewise, for the fifth unit, the consumer is ready to pay. Yeah. Okay, for the fifth unit, the consumer is ready to pay only 2 because for all the 4 units, he paid a lesser amount which he want to pay. So for the fifth unit, he just want to pay the actual price 2 because he already known about the prices of that bread because he is continuously purchasing. So the price of bread is 2 and he wants to pay only rupees 2. So there will be no consumer surplus. 2 minus 2, 0. So there will be no consumer surplus. So at that particular point, there will be no satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And if he continues again goes for the sixth unit, means automatically he doesn't want to pay for the product because it's a continuous purchase. So he doesn't want to pay, but the price of the bread is 2. So the consumer surplus goes in negative. Is it clear, guys? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma. Is the diagram visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, pa. So on the x-axis, quantity of the commodities are measured, and on the y-axis, prices.
Excuse me, ma'am.
And yeah.
Ma'am, the time is 5:15, ma'am.
Okay, just a minute. Yeah, thank you, Pavitran. Is it audible? My voice is audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, diagram is there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So always, if the prices and the quantities are given, means you have to measure the quantity on the x-axis and the prices on the y-axis. So here also we are measuring the prices on the y-axis and the quantity on the x-axis. So here, if the consumer goes for the first product, means he is willing to pay. For instance, it's OB. He is ready to pay. He is willing to pay OB price for a particular commodity, but the product actually prices OA. So he paid only OA instead of OB. So the distance between this AB is called as the consumer surplus. Is it clear? Is the diagram clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So for the total quantity, that is for OQ1, the triangle area ABC is the consumer surplus because in the table, the consumer surplus starts from 8 and it reaches the point 0 and goes negative. So the consumer surplus keep on declining, it decreasing. So the line is sloping downwards, which shows the consumer is willing to pay amount is decreasing and decreasing. That's why the consumer surplus also decreases. So the line is sloping downwards. It has a negative slope and it crosses the x-axis. That is when the consumer surplus is 0. But you have to extend the line, that is BC line, till to cross the x-axis and to be a negative one. So when this line crosses the x-axis, means at that particular point there will be no consumer surplus and it goes on negative. So this is the diagram. Okay, and the next thing is the limitations of the theory. So consumer surplus is an imaginary concept. Why it is an imaginary concept? Why it is called as so? Consumer surplus. Because in the real world, we are having so much awareness regarding the product, from the quality, from the initial point to the end point. Just all the customers are aware of the prices and the quality of the products which was available in the market. So if a consumer wants to buy a particular product, means he will have the full knowledge about the product, then only he is ready to buy that product. So the consumer will actually know about the price. And second one is difficult to measure the marginal utility, that is in numbers it's difficult. And availability of substitutes in the real world, we are having so many variety of commodities, and the marginal utility of money is also not constant for product and also for consumers, and this is not applicable to necessaries. That is, the consumer concept of consumer surplus is not applicable to the necessity commodities. This is only applicable for the normal and the luxury commodities. For example, if 1 kg of rice, you are buying 1 kg of rice for rupees 50 means, and while this month, for the month of September, you are going to you are entering into the shop, seeing such advertisement which says the price of the rice is gone to 52 from rupees 50. So even it's a necessity commodity, you are going for a purchase of those that commodity, even there is an increase in the price. Instead of rupees 50, you are paying rupees 52 and you are getting a product. In that case, this consumer surplus concept will not be applicable. If it is a luxury commodity, means, for example, if you want to buy something, a decorative thing, means automatically you will give up the product. When the price increase, you will give up the product. It's a normal mankind thought. So you will give up the product instead of buying at that time. But if it is a necessary commodity, means you won't give up. And there is no perfect competition in the real world. That is, perfect competition assumes the futures are all the prices of those commodities, all the prices of the commodities which were available in the market are constant. So it's not applicable to the real world. And also all the sellers, they are selling their own product line, and those products are not similar. So we are having many substitutes for the products which was produced by all the sellers. So the perfect competition, the features of perfect competition is also not available in the real world. So these are the main limitations of this theory. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
And the next one is the ordinal utility analysis. So the consumer behavior analysis is explained with the use of the utility analysis. This utility analysis was broadly divided into two. One is the cardinal, second one is the ordinal. Under the cardinal analysis, we just studied two laws and one concept. Two laws and one concept was given by Marshall. So the cardinal analysis was also known as the Marshallian analysis. And Marshall's law of diminishing marginal utility and equimarginal utility and the consumer surplus, all those three are based on the cardinal number system. That is, the utility can be measured. And the next thing is the ordinal. The second part is the ordinal utility analysis. And in this ordinal utility analysis, two authors are proposed. They proposed this ordinal utility analysis. One is Hicks, the other one is Allen. J.R. Hicks and Allen, they proposed these indifference curve analysis. J.R. Hicks and R.J.D. Allen, two authors, they proposed this ordinal behavior, and they prove that the consumer will behave, that is the purchasing pattern of the consumers will based on the ordinal analysis and not on the cardinal analysis. That is called as the ordinal approach, that a consumer can prefer the commodity instead of knowing the levels of satisfaction in numericals. He can prefer, the consumer can prefer. That is, if the two commodities are available, means a consumer can say, I prefer commodity A for B. So he likes commodity A than B. Otherwise, he can order the commodities. He can rank the commodities according to his preferences. So he can say first, second, third instead of numericals 1, 2, 3. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is called as the ordinal approach, and these economics, Hicks and Allen, proved the consumer behavior will be on the ordinal base. And this is the definition. Is it visible? Well, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
okay. Yeah, okay, done.
No, ma'am.
So, no. Is the definition is there in the slide?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
now visible. Now visible.
Yeah, okay. So in the name itself, it says indifference curve. It says it's a line or a curve or a graphical representation of something. So it's a diagram, and indifference curve is a diagram. So it's a graph which shows the combination of two commodities. That gives in the morning session, in the equimarginal theory, we just have the several combination, various combinations of two commodities. Did you guys remember that one? The various combinations of two commodities. That is one apple
Yes,
with
ma'am.
one apple with 5 bananas, two apples with 4 bananas, like that. So if a consumer is having the choice of choosing commodities means two commodities means he is having several combinations to choose, and here that give the consumer equal satisfaction and utility, and these various combinations gives the consumer a equal levels of satisfaction. So here under the indifference curve, a consumer is going to buy two commodities, the combination of two commodities. So there would be two commodities. The consumer buy the combination of two commodities, and the satisfaction level which the consumer yields from those commodities are equal. So this was called as the indifference curve. And here the last 3 points: graphical representation of the indifference schedule. This indifference schedule is nothing but a list of combinations of commodities. That is combination A contains this much amount of commodity A and this much amount of commodity B, and combination B contains this much units of commodity A and this much units of commodity B. Like the indifference schedule shows the combinations, various combinations of commodity A and B. Yeah, yes. Yeah, okay. And the locus of all combinations. So if the two datas are available means units of commodities are available means we can locus the combinations by taking two commodities on two axes. So on the x-axis you have to measure the units of commodity A, means on the y-axis you can measure the units of commodity B. So both commodities are taken in the both axes, and we can plot the points like combination A gives this much of A and this much of B. Combination B gives this much of A and this much of B. Likewise, we can plot the points. So if we join all those points means we can get a line, and that is called as the indifference curve. And this indifference curve also called as the equal satisfaction curve or the iso-utility curve, because the combination, various combinations of two commodities gives the consumer a equal levels of satisfaction. That is iso-utility, same kind of utility. And here also we are having several assumptions. So already we discussed the consumer is going to buy two commodities. So the combination of two commodities, he is going to buy the combination of two commodities. So he has to buy at least 1 unit of the other commodity. There won't be 0 of any commodity, at least 1 of each commodity he is going to buy. So he is going to buy at least 2, 1 and 1. And the ordinal utility approach is used, that is he can prefer. And the third one is diminishing marginal rate of substitution. MRS refers to marginal rate of substitution, how the commodities are substituted for each other. And here this diminishing marginal rate of substitution is explained in detail afterwards. I'll explain it afterwards. And last one is the rational consumers. That is, the consumer is always behave. That is, their behavior is based on the thing to maximize their satisfaction with the limited income. So it's a general thing. All the customers are having limited money in their hands. So within this limited money, how they are going to maximize their level of satisfaction. So here this indifference curve assumes that is the full satisfaction point is not achieved by the consumers. So they are always trying to achieve that point, maximum satisfaction point. Is this clear? Okay. So this table is called as the indifferent schedule. Is table visible? Is table visible, guys?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Just a minute.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Now it is visible, ma'am.
Ah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So this table, this is the thing which is called as the indifferent schedule, which says about the various combinations of two commodities. So here in our example, combination A says 20 units of mangoes and 1 unit of orange. Likewise, the combination B contains 15 units of mangoes and 2 units of oranges. Likewise, these two commodities has various combinations. Here it is pointed out 5 combinations of these two commodities. We are having so many combinations, but here we are having only 5 combinations of these two commodities. Likewise, combination D has 8 units of mango, 8 mangoes plus 4 oranges. Is it clear? So this is called as the indifferent schedule. And can you guys just take your notebook and plot the graph for the units of mangoes and oranges. So mangoes and oranges are measured in x and y axis. Plot the combinations of these two commodities. (21) combination A, 15(2) combination B, 11(3) combination C, 8(4) combination D, 6(5) combination E. Plot the point, all 5 points, A, B, C, D, E, all 5 points, and join those points. What is the shape of the line? Anybody drawn?
Rectangular hyperbola.
It's triangular hyperbola.
Yes.
Okay, can you show the diagram which you drawn, Aman Mehta?
How could I, ma'am?
Switch on the video. Yeah, just show your notebook which you drawn. Anybody? Anybody else? Guys, please wait, I'll come, please wait. No, sorry guys, somebody came. Yeah, okay, anybody else? Did you guys drawn? Okay, so what is the shape of the line? What is the shape? Yeah, okay. So while you are joining those points, you will get a line or a curve which slope downwards. Did you guys got this one? Is the diagram visible? Yeah, okay. Okay, ma. So, if you are joining those point, all the combinations, point A, B, C, D, E means you will get a curvy line which slopes downwards from your left to right. So, this curve is called as the indifference curve, and this line shows the combination, locus of all the combinations of two commodities. And this indifference curve, this line is also called as the equal satisfaction line or the iso-utility curve. Okay, and this one explains the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So the first three columns is the indifferent schedule, which we already discussed, that is the various combinations of two commodities. Yeah, okay, come to the second one, combination B having 15 units of mango, 15 mangoes and 2 oranges. So from the first combination, if a consumer wants to add one more unit for orange, means he has to ready to give up some units of the mangoes. So in the second combination, if he want more orange, means he have to ready to sacrifice the some units of mangoes. So in the combination B, it says 15 units of mangoes to have with 2 oranges. That is, to have one more, to add one more orange, the consumer is sacrificing 5 units of oranges. So the rate of substitution is 5:1. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? And
Yes,
this,
ma'am.
yeah, okay. And this is called as the marginal rate of substitution, because just we are dealing this with the last combination, last unit for the single thing. Marginal is the addition made to the total. So marginal shows the single one. So this is this process is called as the marginal rate of substitution. And for the combination C, to have one more orange, 2 plus 1, one more orange, the consumer sacrifices some 4 units of mangoes. So the rate of substitution is 4:1, which is on your right side, MRS. And the combination D has, for having one more orange, 3 plus 1, he has to sacrifice 3 units, 11 minus 8, 3 units. So for having one orange, he sacrifices 3 mangoes. So the rate of substitution is 3:1. Likewise, for the last combination E, for having one more orange, commodity B, he sacrifices 2 mangoes. So the rate of substitution is 2:1. And this is called as these ratios are called as the marginal rate of substitution. And altogether, just watch the rate of substitution, it is declining. 5:1 and 4:1, 3:1, 2:1. So the rate of substitution is declining. So this is called as the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Is it clear, guys? The rate, yeah.
Actually, I can't understand, ma'am, this MRS, the ratio.
Yeah, okay.
Can you explain little bit, ma'am?
Yeah, okay. So in the second combination B, if the consumer doesn't satisfy with the first combination, he doesn't get the levels of satisfaction which he expected. So he goes for the second. So if he lacks more oranges, means he is adding up more units of orange than mangoes. So for having one more orange, 1 plus 1, for having one orange more, extra one orange, he has to sacrifice some 5 units of mangoes. If he is ready to sacrifice 5 units of mangoes only, then he can add one orange. So he is the person, the customer is a person, one who likes oranges, means he has to sacrifice 5 units of mangoes to have a single unit of orange. So the second combination says the consumer sacrifices 5 units of mangoes to have one more unit of orange. So the rate of substitution is 5:1. He sacrifices 5 units to get one more unit of the second commodity. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Likewise for the combination C, if a consumer willing to sacrifice 4 units, means then he will add one more for the second commodity. So 2 plus 1. If you want to have 3 oranges, means he ready to, that person, consumer is ready to sacrifice 4 units of mangoes. So the rate of substitution is 4:1. He sacrifices 4 units to have 1 more unit of the other commodity. Likewise, see the marginal rate of substitutions column. It's starts with 5:1 and 4:1, 3:1, 2:1. The ratio of substitution is decreasing. So this is called as the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Now is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. And diagram visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. These are the diagrams which I added up for these online classes. If you are in the class, means we can draw a diagram according to our example. So here in this diagrams, just ignore the commodities which was in bracket. In the second diagram B1, we are having the commodities of coffee and cigarette in the bracket. Just ignore those commodities. Just see those commodity as commodity X and Y. Yeah, okay. So in the first diagram, here also we are having 4 combinations. The first one for the first unit on the x-axis, for having one more unit of x, a good commodity x, that is from 1 to 2, 1 plus 1, 2, he has to sacrifice some 5 units of oranges. So from point A, we are having a vertical line which says the changes in the commodity y. Delta y refers to the changes in the commodity y. So that is 5 to have one more of orange. That is delta x is the changes in the commodity x. So he sacrifices, the vertical line starts from A. That says about the sacrifices of the commodity, and delta x says the adding up of the commodity. So here delta y is equal to 5 and delta x is equal to 1. So he sacrifices 5 units. Yeah.
Ma'am, here the price wise it is constant, ma'am. Like
Yeah.
like if he buys 12 coffee and 1 cigarette, means same total same price. Like then 8 plus 2 same price,
Here the prices factor was ignored. They are ignored.
Okay, ma'am.
There is no changes in the prices. It's constant. Whatever may be the prices, the consumer are willing. He is willing to buy. Just in this consumer, that is in this ordinal behavior, the satisfaction level only speaks. So the authors ignore the levels of prices. So all are constant. Yeah, okay. So in the diagram A, from A, the vertical line delta y says 5 units. The consumer gives up 5 units for having one more unit of orange. Likewise, the vertical line from B says he sacrifices 4 units of mangoes to have 1 unit of orange. So the delta x, the amount of delta x won't change. So we are having a same length of delta x for every combination, and the delta y only changes. So the initial vertical line from A, which is starts from point A, is a lengthy line delta y, and from B it's little bit lesser than the length of the A, and from C the vertical line, the length of the vertical line is still shorter than A and B, and at point D it's still shorter. Is it clear? So from point A, it starts from 5:1, and at B it's 4:1, and at C it's 3:1, and at D it's 2:1. So the vertical line delta x, the length of delta x won't change, and the length of delta y changes, that is, it decreases. It shows the marginal rate of substitution is decreasing. So this thing, that is the marginal rate of substitution, gives the convex to the curve. Is it clear? Clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this property, that is this future diminishing marginal utility, diminishing marginal rate of substitution, diminishing MRS is the future which gives the convexity to the indifference curve. Because of this diminishing MRS, the curve is indifference curve is convex. And the second diagram shows just it's the same diagram with some other example. So the initial thing from point A. So that is called as the initial marginal rate of substitution, and we are having a decreasing marginal rate of substitution, which is termed as the diminishing MRS, marginal rate of substitution. So this is the second diagram is for your reference. So the first 5:1 is called as the initial marginal rate of substitution, and all others is decreasing from 4, 3, 2. So it's called as the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So is the diagram visible, guys? Marginal rate of substitution.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is the same diagram which we discussed, and ignore the commodity name biscuits and teacups. Yeah, okay. So X1, X2, X3, X4. These ABCD are the various combinations, and X1, X2, X3, X4 shows the rate of substitution, and these rate of substitution. See the last point. We can see as the consumer slides down, that is delta Y becomes shorter and shorter while delta X is the same. So this property, this feature, diminishing marginal rate of substitution, gives the while the line that is changes in the delta Y becomes shorter and shorter, it gives the convexity to the curve. So thus the indifference curve is convex to the origin. This is the feature. This is the reason why the indifference curve is downward sloping curve and it is convex. And the next concept is a indifference map. So indifference map is nothing but more indifference curves are together means collection of indifference curve, the family of indifference curve, the set of indifference curves are called as the indifference map. So in our example, in our diagram, we are having 3 indifference curves, that is IC1, indifference curve 1, indifference curve 2 and indifference curve 3. And indifference curve 1 which shows the combination of 2 commodities. Likewise, indifference curve 2, second indifference curve is it has a various combinations of the other 2 commodities or the same 2 commodities. That is the combination differ. More units are preferred by the customer. So we are having a higher indifference curve, that is IC2 is higher than the IC1, and IC2 says it has the higher level of satisfaction than the IC1, because in the IC2 more commodities can be preferred by the customer. More amount of commodity X and commodity Y can be preferred by the customer. So indifference curve 2 gives more satisfaction than indifference curve 1. Likewise IC3. So in our example, in the 3 curves, among these 3, IC3 gives the highest level of satisfaction and IC1 gives the lowest level of satisfaction. But these satisfaction level will differ to each indifference curve. So the satisfaction level from IC1 is not equal to IC2 and it is not equal to IC3. IC3 gives the highest level of satisfaction and I1 gives the lowest level of satisfaction, and IC2 gives more satisfaction than IC1 and lesser than IC3. Is the diagram clear, guys? Is the diagram clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, okay. So next one is the properties. Coming to the next concept, properties of indifference curve. So an indifference curve is a curvy line. It's a slope downwards and it's not be a vertical or a horizontal line, because a consumer, if you want to add more commodity of the second one, means he have to give up first one. He is substituting the commodity for one another and he have to buy 2 commodities. So the curve, the line is a downward sloping line. So we having a line which slopes downwards, shows the negative relationship between the 2 commodities. So it slopes downwards from your left to right. Is it clear? So this is the
Yes, ma'am.
first property. Okay, ma. This is the first property, and the second one is property 2. They are convex to the origin. Just we discussed. That is, the diminishing marginal rate of substitution gives the convexity to the origin. It's the same diagram which I used there. So delta y, the length in delta y becomes shorter and shorter. It shows the rate of substitution of first commodity is diminishes while adding the second one. So this is called as the diminishing marginal rate of substitution, and this diminishing marginal substitution feature gives the convex shape to the indifference curve. And the third one, next property is indifference curve cannot intersect each other. That is, we already discussed indifference curve 1 is different from indifference curve 2. That is, the higher indifference curve gives the higher level of satisfaction. Yeah, okay. See in the see from your right side, IC1 and IC2. So according to this IC2, the curve which has the point C gives the higher level of satisfaction than the IC1. But on your left side, see the thing from the y-axis. The IC1 is greater than the IC2. So it can't be like this. So all the indifference curves are parallel to each other, and it cannot intersect each other. Is it clear? Because indifference curve, if it moves higher and higher means on the right side, higher and higher means it shows the different levels of satisfaction. So these indifference curve won't cut each other, and also it won't touch the x-axis or the y-axis, because the indifference curve, the consumer wants to buy the combination of two commodities. Indifference curve, in the name itself, it says the combination of two commodities. So the consumer have to purchase at least one of the two commodity, at least one of each commodity. So it won't cut each other, and it won't touch the x or the y axis. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, 1 minute, ma. Okay, again, sorry, some interruption. Okay, so this property 3 says the indifference curve doesn't intersect with each other, and also it does not touch either x or the y axis, because the consumer have to buy at least one of the commodity, so it won't be cut the x or the y axis, it won't touch. And the next property, property 4. Is the slide changed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, it's in
okay. It's in
Property 4.
ma'am, property 4, ma'am.
property 4. Yeah, property 4. This is the thing which we already discussed. Higher indifference curve gives the higher level of satisfaction. So in the diagram, we are having 4 indifference curves: IC1, IC2, IC3, and IC4. So IC4 gives the highest level of satisfaction, and IC1 gives the lowest level of satisfaction, and IC2 and 3 are in between them. That is, these are the indifference curve which shows, that is, the satisfaction level for each indifference curve is determined by the amount of goods which the consumer wants to buy. If a consumer wants to buy more and more commodities, means the level of satisfaction from those commodities are higher and higher for the consumer. So the higher indifference curve gives higher level of satisfaction, and the lower indifference curves shows the lower levels of satisfaction. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Can we wind up? Can we wind up with this?
Yes, ma'am. Actually.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going